What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. So one that I definitely wanted to go over because I literally went over this band last year because they released an album last year around this same time. In fact, it was like the 19th of November versus the 11th of November.
Ooh.
I know, they are fucking keeping busy. So we're going to go over the newest offering from Dream Unending, Song of Salvation. This again comes out on the 11th of November on 20 Bucks Spin Records. This band formed literally last year in both the US and Canada because there are two members. One of them is Derek Vela of Tomb Mold, and the other being Justin Dettori of Innumerable Forms and also of Summerlands. Now, as I said, this is their second album, and they have definitely stayed busy because their first album literally came out last year around the same time, and it was pretty interesting. Like, in terms of death doom, I think this band has kind of a unique sound overall. It's very atmospheric. I think they call it Dream Doom or something like that.
It makes sense. Very airy and really melodic.
Very.
For Doom. And not the typical Doom melodies where it's like tremolo or where it's something down-tuned to create melody. Very just pretty dreamscapes.
Yeah. I mean, on their first album, they definitely kind of like pioneered this sound. I think this is them sort of refining it. All the melodies seem more intricate on this one versus the last one where like melody was sort of like an atmospheric touch. This, I feel like melody is almost the main thing. Mm-hmm. I would say like the overall style on here is essentially bottom heavy, like just nasty doom riffs, but on top of that you have these really excellent clean melodies. Like there's a lot of clean guitar in here, both in the way of like lead work or just actual melodies that carry through an entire song. And the songs in here are pretty different from one another. I mean, outside of the opening and the last track, the title track and Ecstatic Rain, the whole middle portion of this is vastly different. But the opening track really kind of sets things off with a 14-minute fucking epic of dreamy doomness.
Right off the bat, I'm just going to talk about production. Grossly clean production. Again, not the typical murky doom sound. Really clean, crisp guitars. The drums are gigantic. Like the kick drum you can feel punching you directly in the stomach. The toms are huge. The snare is huge. It's Arthur-esque.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. And probably one of the better, if not best, things that Arthur-esque has produced yet to date.
With all the empty space in between, stuff in here, like, because a lot of this are just like big, open, droning chugs. Even the vocals are long cadences of just growls, like a single growl and a note. And I don't know, you can hear just how that empty space, like everything resonates in it. And it just creates this huge sound. Plus you have like synths in here too to sort of kind of pepper in a little bit of extra atmosphere. And I think the songwriting in here is definitely more dynamic than it was in the first album. Not to say that first album wasn't dynamic. I think it was actually one of the coolest doom metal albums that came out last year. But this one, I think with these longer songs, they have space to go through a lot of different movements. Like there are heavier sections on here. There are definitely more clean melodic breaks. There's really interesting buildups, like the title track. There is a section where everything drops out in favor of a clean melody. And then you start to hear this sort of tribal rhythm build up. And behind that, there is this sort of whooshing sound. It sounds like jets taking off in the background, but it's probably not. It's probably a synthesizer.
Well, I mean, they obviously recorded everything in either a great room or a cave or maybe even an airport hangar because it sounds cavernous. What's interesting in here is the amount of lead work and really well done melodic leads. There's nothing, I wouldn't call anything shreddy in here, but I would call phrasing almost like something you'd find in either Cynic or Exvius or Pink Floyd even.
They're all very well thought out. They kind of go by feel. Like that's the kind of thing, like I think of David Gilmour, except like this is like Death Doom David Gilmour, which doesn't technically exist. But if it did, I think this is what it would sound like. Everything is just kind of going for like an emotional sort of thing. And the vibe on this album is interesting. Like it's kind of hard to pigeonhole. Like you think doom, you think sullen and dreary.
Yep.
And I mean, you get that with like the heavier riffs in the background, but with these constant like clean melodies, it's kind of chill.
Yeah. The overall doom aspect, usually like the sullen sadness is more in the background, whereas imagine having a really sad but also kind of calm dream. Like, man, this kind of sucks, but I'm relaxed. This is beautiful. There's an angel. Oh, nope, that's a demon. It's okay, though. It's kind of that feeling.
I was waiting for you to say, I was like, oh, it's an angel. Oh, she's got a gun. Oh, shit. Oh, I'm just going to give her my wallet.
Oh, yeah, she's taking my wallet. Well, joke's on her. There's not a lot in there.
That contrast is just all over this album. Like, you get moments in here that are fiercely, like, funeral doomish. Like, it slows down to an absolute crawl, very akin to bands like Evoken and Ahab. But you also have that sort of, like, dreary, almost kind of gothic vibe. Like, it's a little similar to the last Worm EP that dropped, with that little bit of, like, My Dying Bride worship, but kind of mix in, like, I don't know, like Paul Bear, because Paul Bear is really excellent at the atmosphere. But, I don't know, like, the whole vibe of this is just strange. Like, I compared it to, like, not being under the clouds for, you know, a rainy, gray day, but sort of, like, floating either in them or slightly above them.
Slightly above the stratosphere, you can still see a little bits of rays of sunshine peek through, which isn't, again, typical for Doom, because you think cold, blackness, Ohio in the winter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gray mud season. Man, do we have that for probably about the next 6 months.
Blap. But somewhere in there, in Secret Grief, you get a trumpet solo. Reminded me a lot of White Ward, actually.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for, at any given time, for Peter Steele to sing.
Or at least the ghost
vocals, or at least the ghost of Peter Steele.
You do get some clean vocals on Secret Grief, but they are done by Phil Swanson, who used to be the singer of Summerlands, and I believe is still the frontman for Hour 13, and they're just very forlorn, clean vocals. There's a lot of reverb on them. Actually, it sounds like he's kind of back in a hallway, like kind of far away from the microphone. They just kind of picked him up from afar, and he doesn't sound like he's having a good time.
Maybe he had the flu.
Maybe.
And they were like, you know what, you stand over here.
Yeah, no.
We're all gonna...
The mic hasn't had its shots yet.
Yep.
But I like how that song starts off very clean, very somber, but still very pretty, and then kind of curtails into flat out death doom with, you know, Justin's giant roars coming in, the heavier guitars. I think one of the big standouts for me was the instrumental in here, Unrequited. That is probably like the closest to like Pink Floyd I think they got. It's predominantly clean tones. And oh my god, the lead that is on there is possibly one of the prettiest ones in the entire album.
I love the lead. In fact, if you guys ever get a chance to see Shredlord actually play guitar, this reminds me of something he would write as far as melodic phrasing is concerned for a lead, because it's all really laid back and it lets all the notes breathe a little bit, much like the dreamy sequence of this record, but it's such a beautiful lead. It's, I think, my favorite in the entire record.
It's a really just kind of cool song. Like, it's very different from the rest of the album because at no point does it ever get like sonically heavy. Like, it's all clean tones. You can really hear the bass play in the background. Lots of synths sort of layering out, like it's kind of Tangerine dreamy a little bit in spots. And I just think it kind of creates like a very unique mood on there. Like, I just think it's an absolutely beautiful song. And the trumpet that's played on here is actually played by the guitarist and vocalist of Vastum, Layla Abdul Rauf. I was kind of shocked by that because generally when you hear like saxophone or trumpet or any sort of like extra instrumentation, you think it's going to be someone that came in for session work that's actually just like they played just that or something. But hearing that it's actually someone that is rooted in the death metal scene,
right,
that's pretty fucking cool. But I think the big nasty song at the end, Ecstatic Rain, pretty much just captures this entire album in terms of everything it offers. 16 minutes of just wildly dynamic death doom. In fact, I would almost say, like, if you sped this up, you could probably almost call this, like, prog metal at some length. There's a lot of different movements on there. You actually have a guest vocal spot from Max Klebanoff, the drummer-singer of Tomb Mold, and you also have really haunting, clean female vocals from McKenna Ray, who I believe sings in a couple of symphonic metal bands in Canada. And she just adds this very haunting just atmosphere to it. Like, she has a very long passage where it's mostly clean guitars behind her. But this song gets really heavy and, like, actually kind of up-tempo.
Some of the heaviest riffs found in this album, I think, are in, like, the first 2 minutes of this song and then the last 2 minutes of this song. Big, chuggy nasties. Love those big, chuggy nasties.
And it's interesting, like, you know, when you kind of prep yourself for like a big death doom break, like you can kind of feel it comes like, all right, everything's kind of slowing down, big single chugs. But like the release here is kind of different. Like it's not that stupid heavy moment. It's like, oh man, it's heavy, but man, like this just, I don't know. I kind of feel good.
It's heavy, but it's pretty. Why do I feel so heavy, yet so light and fluffy?
I know, like that's
Dreamy.
the thing. Like it's just an odd vibe. Like my brain's kind of at odds. Like you should be banging your head, but it's okay though. And you might hurt your neck. Just chill, dude.
It's okay. We're gonna give you a nice pillow, a nice fluffy pillow
with extra neck support because we care.
Yes.
And with the vocals being slightly different on tracks, I think that's something I prefer on this one versus the first one, where it was just Justin's growl. And while it was good, it kind of felt a little one note. Now you have some clean vocals coming in that are, guest spots. And you also kind of space them out a little bit more. And I think his vocal delivery has improved here. It's a little bit more clear. And the fact that there aren't many vocals all together in here, like this is mostly music, I kind of like that. Like this is just sort of an interesting kind of roll all the way through sort of album. Like, picking individual tracks, there's some good ones. There's really good ones, but playing it as a whole, I think is just sort of the whole complete thought. And I just like that, especially since it bookends on two absolutely gigantic tracks.
It is really easy to zone out to, however. I found myself doing it several times where I actually just kind of lost focus and just sat there and let the music kind of take the reins of where I was going. For me, that was a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, this is very trance-inducing.
Yes. And then there's the song Murmur of Voices, which is only a couple minutes long. Again, while sticking with the open-airy melodics and the kind of whispered female vocals, it almost feels like that track didn't necessarily fit. Like, what was the point of that? It's
more of a segue track. Like, it has really cool, clean melodies. There's a pretty lead on it. But I feel like, honestly, like, the more I listen to this, I felt like it's like you could have probably taken this time and built more on Unrequited and make that an even bigger instrumental. Like, this feels like a section in the middle of one of the longer songs that, would have curtailed into something else. This just kind of has like an atmospheric break, and it does deliver on Murmur of Voices, because there's a lot of them whispering all sorts of shit. I don't necessarily know. I think there was one that came in really loud. It was like, follow your dreams or pay your car insurance or something like that. I don't know.
Could be both.
Could be both. You probably should do both.
Follow the car insurance of your dreams. With the first and the last song being as long and as epic as they are, I wouldn't state to maybe throw out the middle three songs, because the instrumental, Unrequited, is really pretty and really, I'm glad it's there. The other two, I think you might have been able to make into one song.
Maybe. I like Secret Grief as a standalone song, because I kind of like that whole giant flip between, like, sullen, quiet, more clean opening with the clean vocals to brooding, heavy death doom with cool atmospheric flourishes. But it was Murmur of Voices that I just felt was a little bit kind of extra. And honestly, I definitely could have used more of Unrequited, because I think that's just an absolutely beautiful song. But overall, I really dug this, and I see this as an improvement in a lot of ways on their first one, which I think was also really good. So I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 stars. I fucking really dug this. Murmur of Voices, again, might be a little bit extra, but it still does contribute to the overall flow of the album. I like this really weird contrast. Like, I like the fact that my brain doesn't necessarily know what to do with this entirely. Like, yes, it's very pretty, but it's also very heavy and very somber, but you feel kind of calm and chill about it. What the fuck is going on? This is so fucking manic, but I like it. It's very engaging. It's still heavier in hell, but God, the melodies in here are just absolutely gorgeous. And I think it really showcases Derek Vela as a guitarist and songwriter. Like, he can really do some amazing stuff that doesn't necessarily get showcased in Tomb Mold. But yeah, I think it does improve pretty much on most of the things they accomplished with the first album. I strongly recommend this if you're a big fan of just giant sounding death doom. I mean, that's kind of the bass sound. Like, this is kind of a hard one to really describe, but I would say, like, bands like Ahab, Esoteric, Evoken, like namely the Funeral Doom ones, because this is kind of a slow roller. Those are the ones, I think, if you're a fan of those bands, you'll probably get into this. Either way, strongly recommend checking this out.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. And most of my rating is based on just the wonderful beauty of the production. I mean, it's crystal clear. Just the leads alone and all the melodies going on. I don't know, again, I'm with you on the fact that it's kind of hard to classify, because I wouldn't say so much doom as I would melodic, dreamy, happy kind of thing. Like it's in there.
Maybe it's more melancholy than Doom.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Just more. Yeah. More melancholy than Doom. I like the first song and the last song and Unrequited. The two middle ones, except for the trumpet solo and Secret Grief, the two middle ones I thought were a little bit shorter than they needed to be, and maybe they could have expounded on those a little more. I need some more time with this record, I think, before I can really give a straightforward synopsis on it. I did zone out to it a bunch, and I kind of lost my place and just found myself kind of coming in and out of the record. So I think that's why I need a little bit more time with it. But it's a solid 3.5. It's a good listen. You're gonna have fun.
I was waiting to see what your face would do when you were going to say that.
Yep, you're going to have fun with
Maybe?
it. You won't be an entirely saddened, doomy, dreary mess. You'll be a little bit sad, yet a little bit happy, yet a little bit calm. You might take a nap.
You might take a nap.
You might stay awake. Who knows? But it is very dreamy and open. It was a good listen. Wasn't what I was expecting, and I didn't really listen to the much of the last record. I think I might have heard a track here and there, but it wasn't what I expected. But it wasn't in a bad way. I don't know. It seemed kind of a weird release for $20 spin too. Definitely give it a listen. Give it a whirl. You might like it. I enjoyed it. You might like it too.
So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our link to Patreon is there. There's also our store there. We have t-shirts. We don't have extra large right now. We are eventually going to have to restock on that, and we will eventually have some new merch in there once we decide what all we're going to get in there. Grenades, I think, are an absolute must. He laughs because he knows it's happening.
I mean, I give up at this point.
You should.
I feel like...
You should have gave up like weeks ago.
I feel like he says every time grenades, so there will be some sort of grenade in there. I don't know how we're going to do that or get away with it.
Very carefully, probably.
But whatever, there's grenades. I'm sure every time we say grenades, I'm sure we get like some guy listening, like some government guy listening. Oh, they said grenades! Watch out for the Thralls of Metal. We're harmless. I guarantee it. We're more stupid than we are.
Yeah, dude, seriously, come on. Ages 6 and up on the grenades. Come on, we're not going to be completely reckless
I mean, that's a decent spot to
Yeah.
put it. I mean, I would have said 7 and up, but I mean, if you want to go 6 and up, I think you believe in America's youth.
I do. I believe they can throw grenades at people.
Last but not least, we get to the thank you part of the video, where me and this chucklehead and I... That's how it should be. This chucklehead and I get together and we thank you profusely for showing up and watching and subscribing and talking to us for some reason or another. Thank you so much. You've made this a tremendous part of our lives, and something that we look forward to every week, and we enjoy sitting down here and recording videos and saying a bunch of stupid things to you, and somehow you still tune in. Thank you very much.
It's still kind of staggering, like going to a show the other night, running into some fans there. That's always fucking cool. So, yeah, thank you all so much once again, and we will catch you later.